Israel has revealed Iran's secret documents, which state that Tehran's main goal is the elimination of Israel as a state. Also, when Israel started the war against Iran, it relied on intelligence data which, according to its statements, indicate that Iran has reached the point of no return in its pursuit to create nuclear weapons. This evidence prompted Israel's security forces to launch the attack right now. The information was presented to the United States and other Western partners, which plays an important role in their current decisions about supporting or even joining this war. Netanyahu and his team have already publicly stated this during the war, and today the magazine received exclusive information that provides an overview of the Israeli dossiers shared with allies. And together with you, we will review them in this episode. My name is Alexei Pechi. We'll go through everything step by step, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and write any comment you like. Subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News, link in the video description. There we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. So according to the magazine, the information provided by Israel includes a detailed description of the urgent efforts by Iranian scientists to create an explosive nuclear device. The dossier provides two key pieces of evidence for this thesis. First, the Iranian scientific group allegedly hid a certain amount of nuclear material that International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors are unaware of. The second piece of evidence. The scientists accelerated their work and were preparing to meet with the commanders of the Iranian Missile Corps, apparently to prepare for the future integration of a nuclear warhead with a ballistic missile. Israeli intelligence assessments claim that a group of Iranian scientists have been conducting both open and secret research for years. These efforts were originally part of Iran's official nuclear weapons program known as AMAD. AMAD will come up again in this episode. The scientists' further work is believed to have been carried out under the auspices of Iran's Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, known by its Persian abbreviation. And it was conducted under the cover of activities in areas such as coronavirus disease, 19 vaccines, and laser technologies. The Israeli dossier contains information claiming that about 6 years ago, Iranian scientists created a secret special progress group led by former director Ahmad Fakhrizadeh. The group's goal was to prepare for a faster process of military use if Iran's supreme leader Khamenei decided to urgently produce a bomb. I should note here that Fakhrizadeh was killed by Israel in November 2020. The Special Progress Group intensified its research at the end of last year. This is also proven by the International Atomic Energy Agency report, which we'll discuss later. Iran has a new incentive. The country has recovered from the limited effect of its missile attacks on Israel and the weakening of its air defense due to Israeli strikes in October 2024. In addition, Iran has faced the collapse of its proxy forces such as Hamas and Hezbollah. Israeli intelligence claims that a meeting was planned between Iranian scientists and commanders of Iran's air forces who are responsible for ballistic missiles. The information passed by Israel to its allies claims that the meeting was a turning point as the missile force military commanders were for the first time let in on the secrets of the nuclear program, which indicates the beginning of preparations for the so-called integration of a nuclear device with a missile warhead. Israel's new claims have influenced the American intelligence community, which has different views on the Iranian threat. Let me remind you that in March, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence of the United States and an opponent of war with Iran, reiterated the opinion that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. However, Trump's position was more influenced by the Israeli point of view, and on June 17th he stated, quote, "I don't care what she said," referring to Gabbard. I think they were very close to making a bomb. David Albright, an American nuclear physicist who advises intelligence agencies, notes that most of the claims presented in the recent Israeli dossiers are generally accepted in Western intelligence communities. However, he acknowledges that there are statements that are new to him, particularly the hints about an imminent meeting with missile force commanders. He also said that American analysts agree that Iran has accelerated preparations for the military use of that very enriched uranium. But even if American analysts acknowledge Iran's intention to build a bomb and the acceleration of its efforts, they may not agree that the country has crossed the threshold and that the threat was truly imminent. However, Israeli officials speak of a point of no return, a moment when Israel could no longer stop Iran's push to create a nuclear bomb. But was Iran really as close to developing nuclear weapons as Israel claims? And here we will consider a few more perspectives on this situation. The first thing that opponents of Israel's position are focusing on now is the statement by Tulsi Gabbard. Back on March 25, 2025, the Director of National Intelligence of the United States told the Senate Intelligence Committee that, according to the assessment of the American intelligence community, Iran is not actively working on developing nuclear weapons. However, Gabbard noted that in recent years there appears to have been an erosion of the long-standing taboo in Iran against publicly discussing nuclear weapons. This has likely encouraged supporters of nuclear weapons within Iran's decision-making apparatus. She added, quote, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium has reached its highest level and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Let's move on. In the 22-page report declassified by the International Atomic Energy Agency Board at the end of May 2025, it was not stated that Iran was this close to nuclear weapons. It stated that Iran could not see aspects of Iran's civilian nuclear program, and it was believed that Tehran repeatedly refused to cooperate, especially regarding its past secret nuclear program. The International Atomic Energy Agency report concluded that it was impossible to confirm that Iran's civilian nuclear program was exclusively civilian. The International Atomic Energy Agency notes Iran's progress in building a bomb, its level of cooperation with United Nations inspectors, and its stockpiles of enriched uranium. On the first point, the International Atomic Energy Agency has been studying Iranian artificial uranium particles at 3 sites in Iran since 2019: Varamin, Marivan, and Turkuzabad. This was part of Iran's nuclear program under the code name AMAD, which had been known for many years and was officially declared to have supposedly ended in 2003. But the International Atomic Energy Agency report concludes that these, quote, 3 sites and other possibly related sites were part of an undeclared, structured nuclear program carried out by Iran until the early 2000s. And that undeclared nuclear materials were used in some types of activities. Afterward, International Atomic Energy Agency Director Rafael Grossi made the following statement to the Council. Unfortunately, Iran has repeatedly either not responded or has not provided technically credible answers to the agency's questions. Iran also attempted to sanitize inspection sites, which made it more difficult for the agency to carry out its verification activities. Well, in other words, they were covering their tracks. The International Atomic Energy Agency concluded that after successful explosive tests, Iran intended to conduct cold tests with a fully assembled bomb using a core made of natural or depleted uranium rather than weapons-grade uranium. And they conducted preparatory tests for explosion protection. And this already indicates real preparation for a nuclear weapons test. Well, otherwise, why conduct such tests at all? Taken together, these findings confirm the scale of Iran's previously revealed nuclear program and also suggest that this knowledge, as they say, was not lost within the Iranian scientific community. After 2003. The second issue concerns access to the facilities. The International Atomic Energy Agency report says that he is not being given the required access and is not being shown the plans for new nuclear facilities. And now, attention. Since February 2021, Iran has been denying the International Atomic Energy Agency access to data from centrifuge manufacturing plants. Why did I emphasize the year 2021 like that? This is exactly the period when Joe Biden becomes the President of the United States of America and starts negotiations with Iran to renew the nuclear deal or nuclear agreement. From that moment, Iran suddenly starts negotiations, but does not allow International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors into new nuclear facilities across Iran. Although, as stated in the International Atomic Energy Agency report, several cameras were reinstalled at centrifuge production plants in May 2023. The agency still cannot access the recordings from these cameras. This leads to the thought that Iran has something to hide there. From Iran's point of view, all these steps were permissible countermeasures in response to Trump's withdrawal from the nuclear deal in 2018. Without a deal, there is no accountability. On the third point, the International Atomic Energy Agency report says that Iran is accumulating stocks of highly enriched uranium that significantly exceed the level set in the 2015 nuclear agreement. Iran's stockpile of uranium enriched to 60% has increased from 275 kilograms at the beginning of February this year to 408 kilograms as of today. This amount of fuel is already enough for 9 warheads, depending on how much highly enriched uranium is in the core of each nuclear weapon. The International Atomic Energy Agency report also points to statements by former Iranian officials who suggested that Tehran now has all the capabilities to produce nuclear weapons. A quote from the International Atomic Energy Agency report: "Although protected enrichment activities themselves are not prohibited, the fact that Iran is the only non-nuclear weapon state in the world that produces and accumulates uranium enriched up to 60% remains a matter of serious concern." So, when asked in April 2025 when Iran will be able to equip its missile warheads with weapons, Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, replied, "Dates are always arbitrary, but they are not far off. This, as you know, is a matter of months, not years." So the conclusions of Israeli intelligence look quite plausible. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like.